when you are auditing, this is, I mean, I don't know how you want to do this, but when you are auditing, you need to really observe the complete process and figure out what are the risks. Keep the manual aside for the time being. You look at from a ground zero condition and see that if this is the process, what are the loopholes that is there in the system which you can actually exploit. You do a compliance audit, I am not against it, but unless you do the other areas, you will never ever come to know what is the risk in the business, and you will never be able to get that strategic position in front of the business. There are few clients who are sitting here who has got that strategic position. The auditing team has got the strategic position in front of the management, and in some cases they are also the part of the group management committee, right? That is because they decided to dump the way they do the things normally and then take on the next wave of doing things. So today we are talking about cloud forensics. How many of you have done even a test on the cloud? Now the next question is, how do you do a test on the cloud? I mean, there are simple ways of doing test. Today your Google is a cloud, right? Your Yahoo is a cloud, your Apple is a cloud. But we don't know what to do about it. All you need to do is Google 5 minutes and you will exactly get what is it that you need to test on a cloud and how it needs to be tested on the cloud. So I think what we need to understand is the threat magnitude is gone much beyond what we ever imagined. Today the people are not trying to hack your system and deface your web homepage. That era is gone. The worms and the virus which is written today is not written to crash your hard disk. It is written to crash the economy of the countries. Which is the last virus which has done it? Anybody knows about it? How many of you heard about Stuxnet? What was the intent of that virus? That's the point. Yeah, so it is not a computer, it's not a computer crime which you think is a risk, right? It is to shut down a part of defense of a country written by a set of other countries. I don't want to take the name of the people, but that's it. Today, if somebody tries to get into your system, are they trying to get into the system for the heck of it, or they are trying to do it for the information that is there? We do a lot of penetrations in the organization. There are clients who come to us and say, can you just give us the data about what these guys are doing? That's a huge business, right? So there are people out there who do this. I mean, you can call, there are so many freelance consultants who will come and tell you what is the strategy of this organization. And I can vouch for it that 95% of the time, the data that they give will be correct. From where do they get it? Those are the companies who are certified ISO 20000, ISO 27001, all the business continuity standard, everything has been there. The information just flows out of it. Why? Because we believe that the risk is only those crackers who will download a script from the web and put it on your system. A lot of people tell us that, you know, we have disabled our USB, not DVD drives. Everything is tied on. Nobody can take data. What does this 20,000 rupee phone do in an organization? When you know that everything is on the phone now, what is the point of disabling USB? What are we trying to, why are we trying to fool around? Today, the capability of people, if you're on a laptop, you just need to open 4 screws, the hard disk is out, you plug it into a different machine, you copy the data. So our belief, see, the problem with the auditing team is that you are supposed to be auditing something, right? The identification of risk is given as somebody else's responsibility. So just now manual it is his headache, I will audit this. Nobody actually stops you from going beyond the line and figuring out what is actually the issue. You can actually show how the alignment of plans can happen. One of the examples which I just talked about, the data getting leaked out of the IT system and the issue is somewhere else. So according to me, you should not audit the process, you should try to break the process. If you start doing that, then there is tremendous output that you will generate instead of those high, medium, low outputs that you normally carry. The problem with the audit report, when I look at it, is that it always says high, medium, low. It doesn't tell me what is the impact to the business, because you don't use a quantifiable data to make your assumption, right? Neither do you pass the quantifiable data as an audit finding back to the people who are reading the report. Unless you can correlate the data and the impact, there is nothing much will change in the auditing spectrum. So some of the area that you should look at when you do a quantification of the data is, what is going to be the revenue loss? Nobody is actually asking you that you please give me the exact numbers. Nobody is asking that. But can you pinpoint that if this process is faulty, what is the next step? You will say this process is faulty, because of which this can happen, but you never show that actually happening. You never do the simulation. If you do the simulation and take it to forget about the CEO, if you just take it to the CFO, you will jump from the seat, I can assure you. He will say, I need to fix this. But the problem here is, we will say, this is what the process says, this is the compliance, non-compliance, and this is the impact, high, medium, low. It just gets filed and say, come after 6 months, we have a corrective action plan, and we will figure it out at that point of time. So I think these are the points that you need to look at when you do the audit. And my sense is, if you can actually show the impact of the gap, then you will be able to make some impact on this. So at the end of the day, if I had to say why the auditing team or the audit team is not getting the strategic position that you need to have in the organization, it is because of the mindset of the senior management. The senior management mindset will change with respect to audit only if you can show, boss, in the next 2 years, you are likely to lose 500 crore because of this. Yeah. Unless you do that, or your brand can get a hit. So for instance, when there are companies who do in the FMCG market who does a store audit, right? So let's go back to the same case of the worm in Cadbury. I think it's around 5-6 years back. It was not that particular day they realized that there is worm in Cadbury. I don't even want to debate there was a worm in the Cadbury, but it was not the first time they realized. They realized that they were actually fighting with the shopkeepers, saying that your storage is not correct, your refrigeration is not correct, and this. They never assumed that if it comes back and hits the brand, what is going to be the damage. They had to bring in Amitabh Bachchan and all that after that. But they knew the data was there. So when you see a data, you try to extrapolate and go beyond the realms of the audit and figure out what is it likely to happen if this really happens. If this kind of a scenario actually happens, what is going to be the impact? At times, you also need to show what is going to be the impact on the personal aspiration of the person. So if you go and tell the CEO that your brand is going to be in trouble, you are not going to achieve your numbers. So obviously, I can assure you, he is not going to give you that 3 minutes, he will give you 30 minutes at least to figure out what is it that he can do. Saying that the exception actually comes from business, so what is it that I can do? Because every time I put in a report, they do nothing about it. It's again looped back to the same point, because they do nothing, because they don't understand the impact of this. I can tell you one client where we had done some kind of a work, and the top management sits on the 7th floor of the company. And these are basically the vice presidents and directors of the organization, and they had a system in which the lunch used to come from home, and the peon or the driver used to take it up, or the dabbawala themselves used to take it up. And we said this is not allowed. So there was a big hue and cry saying that, what do you expect? You expect us to go 7 steps down and get the lunch? How can it be that you don't allow my dabbawalas to come up? We said we are not going to allow. Come what may. The issue went to the chairman of the organization, and we were actually slightly worried. What is the decision that he is going to take? Because if it takes what is the populistic decision, then the entire project will collapse, because then it will only create exceptions. But that man said one thing. He is one of the largest company in the country. He said, I have understood the risk of letting a person come up. You got secretaries, let them go down and pick up the lunch. the process will not change. Today, before we did this exercise, that the lobby used to see around 800 footfalls. Lobby which is half the size of this. Today, when we do this assessment, we see around 100 footfalls, which means 700 odd people who used to come into the lobby had no business to be in that lobby. Obviously, we had to prove this to the organization, saying that this is creating a huge risk, and what kind of risk. So, just to sum it up, how do you audit an IT system, how do you audit a cloud is something which anyone can learn on the job. There is nothing much you need to do. There are some skill set which you may not be able to gather. You will have to obviously use somebody who knows this business, how to do it. But beyond that, what is worrying me and what I think you should be looking at is look at completely take a relook at the philosophy of audit and see how you can derive or deliver value to the business heads. Then audit function will get the time it demands. It will get the screen size that needs, and obviously it gets the management attention and implementation. Because most of the companies which is certified in various numbers, I can assure you there is zero implementation. It is just under 3 days of surveillance audit, everything becomes pick and clean, it gets certified. The last mile connectivity, as we call in the risk, will come only if audit shift their process upside down and start delivering the business impact rather than saying that where is your compliance.